Welcome to the Aboriginal Channel. On this episode, we're going to look at some evidence down in the Virgin Islands, which is right here by all them other islands. Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Barbados, Tortola, all those islands right there. It says, man, a monthly record of anthropological science, published under the direction of the Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland, April 1938. Skeletal remains from the Virgin Islands. In February 1936, while engaged in field work among the Negroes of the Eastern Caribbean, conducted during the tenure of a Commonwealth Fund Fellowship in Anthropology at Northwestern University, and with the assistance of a research grant from Northwestern and Columbia Universities, Trevor was able to collect the remains of some of the early inhabitants of the Virgin Islands, which had been discovered in the course of the preceding 2 years in Water Island near St. Thomas. Originally, the burials of about 21 persons were recorded as lying at a depth of from 2 to 3 feet below the surface, in direct association with shells of the giant conch and other gastropods, small animal bones, probably those of the Indian coney, lumps of a red ochreous substance, stone implements, and pottery, the last of which is discussed by Professor Gudmund Hatt of Copenhagen in Man 1938. Now here's a man to the left and a woman to the right. Here's the side view. As you can see the cranium, how that is familiar, right? Below here, it gives you the measurements of the skulls and things like that. It says the problem of Antillean cultural affiliations has recently been dealt with by Dr. Charlotte Gore, who states that in 1492, at least 3 populations possessing as many fairly distinct cultures occupy the West Indies. These are usually referred to as Carboni, Tayan, Arawak, and Carib. At the time of the discovery of the New World, the Carboni were living in the extreme west of Cuba and Haiti. In the Lesser Antilles, of which the Virgins form the western extremity, it is known from archaeological evidence that the Caribs superseded an earlier archaeological population, supposed to be related to the Tano of the larger islands and sometimes called the Gernurgi. The Caribs themselves seem to have distinguished between Tano and Yarni. While not wishing to commit himself to a definite opinion regarding the pottery associated with the Water Island burials, Professor Hatt nevertheless supposes it to be Yanarian, owing to the lack of any detailed descriptions of the physical type of the Italian Aborigines which might afford comparative material. We are unable to add anything substantial to the argument from the skulls. So they're saying they don't know how the skulls are related to the pottery and things. So they can't tell you that from the skulls. They can't tell you anything about the pottery. We feel that it is necessary to make some observations concerning the skulls illustrated in Plate D. These are the skulls in Plate D. See, it says Plate D right here to the left. Okay. These are the skulls right here. This man and woman. See, 1 and 3 was a male, 2 and 4 is female. Front and side view. It says, had they been presented to the first 2 of us without indication of provenance, we should, on the basis of their high nasal indices and marked prognosticism, hardly have hesitated to suggest that they were Negroid. 2 other skulls, of which the facial skeletons are more or less intact, do not show these features to such an extreme degree. That means they show them, but not to such extreme degree. That was talked about in Sam Morton's book, where he said they all had the same phenotype, basically. It goes on to say, but the circumstances under which they were found, with 2 celts at the level of the ribs, and with the handled vessel figured by Professor Hatt over the face, seem to argue against the likelihood of secondary interment after introduction of Negro slaves in the 17th century, meaning they didn't get buried after the 17th century, they were there before, while admitting that the conditions of their final recovery were far from ideal. We are inclined provisionally to accept a pre-Columbian date for the remains as a whole. Talking about these remains, this man and this woman, these Negroid skulls are pre-Columbian. It goes on to say that it is perhaps not without significance that Sir William Flower in 1895 commented on the Negroid characteristics of 2 out of a number of Jamaican crania of undoubted Indian origin examined by him. This series was subsequently measured by Dr. Haddon, who mentions the occurrence and considerable variation in the values of the nasal indices in his note on the craniology of of the Aborigines of Jamaica. Additionally, human material from the Virgin Islands may elucidate the problems arising from the present discussion. So there you have it. Pre-Columbian so-called Negroid Indians found 2 to 4 feet under the surface in the Virgin Islands.
So now we're coming up. I am a West Indian. The brothers and sisters listening in the Caribbean, I want you to know that you ain't no West Indian, you know. You're deeper than that. You're bigger than that. How dare you let the little island on which you live cause you to be separated from your own kith and kin. So one from Jamaica, one from Barbados, one from Trinidad, one from St. Kitts, one from Nevis, one from Barbuda, one from Tortola, one from this, one from that, and you're all arguing and fighting with each other over a term that does not apply to you. Christopher Columbus is not our origin, so he can't call me a West Indian.
Through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's the truth?